Hello everyone, today I'll be talking about the cultural context of Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice. And if you're comparing this to any other text for your comparative studies leaving cert, A levels, or whatever it is, this might be the right video for you. So Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice, first published in 1813. It's a classic that we all have read, presumably. It talks about the themes of marriage, social class, and morality in the early 19th century England. The novel follows the story of Elizabeth Bennet as she navigates issues of family, society, and love, particularly in her relationship with Mr. Darcy. Now, understanding the cultural context of Pride and Prejudice is very important because cultural context happens to be one of the comparative modes that you need to know. Now, the first thing you want to talk about is the social class and hierarchy. The novel is set in a society where social class and hierarchy play a crucial role in determining an individual's status and the opportunities presented with the character. So the Bennet family, although part of landed gentry, faces social and economic challenges due to their relatively modest means and the lack of a male heir. And this immediately demonstrates, the anti-feminism, or maybe perhaps subliminally, feminist movement, and as well the expectations of who can inherit and who can't inherit and whatever. So Miss Darcy, representing the upper echelons of the landed aristocracy, contrasts sharply with characters like Mr. Collins, who, despite his association with the upper class through Lady Catherine de Bourgh, lacks genuine social grace and standing. Now, the novel frequently addresses the rigidity of the class system. So, for example, Lady Catherine's disapproval of a potential marriage between Elizabeth and Darcy, or the shades of Pemberley to be thus polluted. This illustrates the entrenched class prejudices that characters like Elizabeth and Darcy must navigate and ultimately overcome. And this novel is called of Pride and Prejudice because characters have to go and fight, eliminate all the pride and the prejudice to get married and to find love. So then you want to think about marriage as a social mobility, and Jane Austen's other book called Persuasion also discusses the same thing, and how marriage acts as a vessel for women to elevate their status in society. So here marriage is depicted as a key means of social mobility, obviously particularly for women. Mrs. Bennet's obsession with marrying her daughters to wealthy suitors reflects the economic and social pressures of the time. This is seen in her reaction to Mr. Bingley's interest in Jane, as the very famous quote goes, "It is a truth universally acknowledged that a single man in possession of a good fortune must be in want of a wife." So now this statement underscores the societal expectation that marriage is the primary avenue for securing financial and social stability, especially for families with limited means like the Bennets with 5 daughters. Now, Charlotte Lucas' pragmatic decision to marry Mr. Collins, despite his lack of charm, further illustrates the limited options available for women and the importance of placing a secure, stable economic future through marriage. So women would look at marriage as a sole or the most reliable way to secure themselves in a futuristic manner. Then you want to think of gender roles, and this book highly, relies on feminism and gender roles, and goes through these thematic aspects, dives and delves into them deeply. Women in the early 19th century had few opportunities for economic independence. They were very much, as I said, largely dependent on marriage as a financial security. This dependence is evident in the character's attitudes. Charlotte Lucas' pragmatic decision for marrying Mr. Collins, like I said, rather than love. So she doesn't look at it from a love perspective, but rather than a financial stability. Charlotte's acceptance of Mr. Collins' proposal also reflects the social norm that women should prioritize economic security over personal happiness. Now, she admits, "I'm not romantic, I never was. I only ask for a comfortable home," something along the lines of this. This contrasts sharply with Elizabeth Bennet's desire for marriage based on mutual respect and affection, which is today's thing, and wasn't really much a thing back then. it highlights the different perspectives on marriage within the same social context. So you'd want to see how, like this era specifically focuses on how females, despite living in the same era, look at marriage from different perspectives. Now, Elizabeth Bennet's independence stands out. Well, she stands out as a character who challenges traditional gender roles and expectations, and this is why this book, a classic, is seen as a fighter of gender roles, and is seen as one that contrasts the ideas of traditional gender roles and expectations of women and what they should and shouldn't do, and tries to find equality or equity between them. The Elizabeth's rejection of Mr. Collins also is a very important moment you want to talk about. Highlights her desire for personal autonomy and genuine connection. And she says that you could not make me happy, and I'm convinced that I'm the last woman in the world who could make you so. And her independent spirit and refusal to conform to societal expectations make her a progressive figure for her time, because she doesn't really represent the average female character in that era. So she kind of advocates for women's right to choose their partners based on compatibility and mutual respect rather than economic necessity, which is very different from her sisters or like Charlotte Lucas or whatever. Anyway, then courtship rituals, perhaps. You'll talk about that for a second, and contrasting marriages. The novel portrays courtship rituals and social conventions governing interactions between men and women. So balls are very important. So the first ball and second ball. So social visits and the formal introduction are critical settings for characters to meet and evaluate the potential partners. For instance, the Meriton Ball, the beginning, serves as an essential social event where initial impressions or judgments are immediately made on Mr. Darcy and his friend, who's the new guy coming to town, and who's gonna dance with whom, and the piano scene, and who's playing the piano, why can't she play the piano, and whatever it is. So Elizabeth overhears Mr. Darcy's dismissive remark about her. She is tolerable but not handsome enough to tempt me. This is also a very important quote in the novel. And these social gatherings, as I said, are opportunities to navigate the complex rules of propriety and courtship, and they often lead to misunderstandings and conflicts that drive the plot, just like almost nowadays. But now this happens at regular parties or gatherings where people just gossip about others, and misunderstandings and a lot of gossip happen. So contrasting marriages, Jane Austen, the author, contrasts different types of marriages to highlight varying motivations and outcomes. The pragmatic marriage of Charlotte and Mr. Collins, my apologies, the initially misunderstood relationship between Elizabeth and Darcy, and the reckless elopement of Lydia and Wickham. They illustrate the complexities and the consequences of marital choices. Now, Charlotte's marriage represents practically practical recklessness and societal compliance, while Lydia's impulsive elopement underscores the dangers of youthful recklessness or negligence and the social stigma attached to scandal. So again, her elopement with Wickham ruins the entire family, because upon doing that, in this era, in the cultural context of this era, you're somehow diminishing the status of your family, ruining their reputation, which is very important in the cultural context of this text. Elizabeth and Darcy's evolving relationship, on the other hand, begins with prejudice and misjudgment, and ultimately embodies the ideal marriage based on mutual respect and understanding. So it's a very much happy ending that Jane Austen succeeds in implementing and incorporating the idea to modern audiences like us, and this is one of the reasons that we study this book, that marriage should not be based on financial security, even though it's one of the main aspects, but love comes first. Mutual respect and love. And then you want to talk about the inheritance laws and the wealth and social status, and this all falls under the category of the economic concerns. The entailment of the Bennet estate to Mr. Collins underscores the economic vulnerability of women and the importance of securing favorable marriages. The lack of a male heir to inherit Mr. Bennet's property threatens the financial stability of the Bennet sisters, and this drives a lot of the plot's tensions. Imagine living in a house and having five daughters, knowing that one day this house will not belong to you or your close immediate family just because you do not have any sons, also known as male heirs, the only heirs in that time. Um, this legal predicament is highlighted when Mr. Collins visits the Bennet family, explaining and says, "Your estate is entailed on Mr. Collins. I am therefore bound to honor my connection with you all." The entailment system prioritized male inheritance and left women dependent on advantageous marriages for their financial security, reflecting the broader societal constraints on women's economic independence. Then you want to talk about wealth and social status. And wealth significantly influences social status and character interactions, and Mr. Darcy's initial pride and Elizabeth's prejudice against him are partly rooted in their differing economic positions. Darcy's vast estate, Pemberley, symbolizes his social and economic power, while Elizabeth's more modest background shapes her perspectives and judgments. Darcy's transformation from a proud, aloof figure to a considerate and generous partner is pivotal in the novel. It demonstrates that true gentility lies not in wealth but in character and actions. And Elizabeth's visit to Pemberley, where she sees Darcy's home and hears praise from his servants, marks a turning point in her perception of him and highlights the intersection of both social status and personal virtues. And this takes us back to the ball, the Meriton Ball, where everything was misunderstood and misinterpreted from both sides, and what she overhears him say and how she sees him like this is all amended and rectified when she hears how the servants talk about him. Then you want to talk about the critique of social norms. Austen uses characters to critique the rigid social norms and values of her time. Through Elizabeth's perspective, the novel questions the emphasis on wealth and status and marital decisions, and highlights the importance of character and virtue. Elizabeth's sharp observations and willingness to challenge societal expectations, as seen in her confrontation with Lady Catherine Bow, reflect Austen's critique of the rigid class system. Elizabeth says, "He's a gentleman, I'm a gentleman's daughter, so far we're equal." This challenges the idea that birth and wealth should determine one's worth and suitability for marriage, again a feminist movement. And then you want to talk about the country life and the ruler setting of Pride and Prejudice. The text reflects the lifestyle and social dynamics of the landed gentry in the 19th century England. The tranquility and beauty of the countryside contrast with the bustling urban life of London. It emphasizes the characters' connections to land and property. The rural setting also follows intimate community interactions and highlights the importance of reputation and social standing with a close-knit society. Now, the Bennet family's home, Longbourn, serves as a central location where much of the novel's domestic life and social interactions unfold. And then this close-knit community also depicts the importance of reputation and social relationships. Gossip and social visits play significant roles in shaping characters' fortunes. They reflect the interconnectedness of rural society, and the influence of social opinion is evident in the way characters like Mrs. Bennet and Lady Catherine de Bourgh attempt to control and manipulate relationships within their social circles. Now, the Bennet family's interactions with their neighbors and relatives, such as Lucases and gardeners, illustrate the complex web of social connections that define and influence life decisions and lives and decisions. So you want to think about it as a spider web where there are a lot of characters, and Pride and Prejudice does indeed have so many characters that overburden the students in knowing who's who and what. So like starting from the fact that there are five daughters that you have to know, and each one of them has a story, and some of them rebel against the cultural or societal expectations of England during that era and time. Some of them abide by it. What happens to each one of them is also very important. You have to know that so that you can back up your answers and all that. So anyway, this is a rich exploration of the early 19th century society, themes of social class, gender roles, marriage, morality, having explored to main characters like Elizabeth Bennet, Mr. Darcy, and whatnot. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video and learned something new. If your ILCs are upcoming, which they are, I wish you good luck and thank you for watching.